The ambulance siren wailed as Emma drifted in and out of consciousness, her designer dress now soaked with blood. Through blurred vision, she saw him working frantically over her, the same man she'd dismissed just hours earlier as not her type. As darkness threatened to overtake her, one thought crystallized with perfect clarity: the single father she'd mocked at dinner was now the only person standing between her and death. Emma Harrington checked her watch for the third time in 5 minutes, irritation building as she sat alone at the upscale restaurant. As CEO of Harrington Tech Solutions, one of Boston's fastest-growing startups, her time was precious. The blind date her well-meaning assistant had arranged was already 15 minutes late, and Emma was mentally calculating how quickly she could leave without seeming rude once he arrived. When a man finally approached her table, Emma's practiced smile faltered. He wore a decent but clearly off-the-rack suit that had seen better days. His hands looked rough, with calluses visible even from across the table, and his haircut was practical rather than stylish. This was not the polished executive type her assistant had promised. "Emma? I'm Jack Reynolds. Sorry I'm late, my babysitter was delayed, and I had to make sure my daughter was settled before I left." Emma's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her water glass. "A daughter? That wasn't mentioned in your profile." She hadn't meant for her tone to sound so dismissive, but the day had been long, and her patience was thin. Jack's warm smile dimmed slightly. "Lily's 8. She's my whole world." The waiter arrived to take their orders, and Emma used the opportunity to study Jack more closely. Despite his unrefined appearance, there was something compelling about his eyes, kind but with a quiet intensity that suggested hidden depths. "So, what do you do, Jack?" Emma asked after ordering a glass of expensive wine. "I work as a maintenance supervisor at Boston Memorial Hospital," he replied without a hint of apology. "Been there about 10 years now." Emma couldn't hide her surprise. Her assistant had described him as accomplished and impressive. A maintenance man hardly fit that description in her world of tech executives and venture capitalists. "That's interesting," she managed, taking a large sip of her wine. "I run Harrington Tech Solutions. We're developing AI solutions for the healthcare industry." Jack's eyes lit up. "That sounds fascinating. The hospital just implemented a new patient monitoring system that's been giving us headaches. Is that the kind of thing your company works on?" For a moment, Emma was caught off guard by his genuine interest. "Similar, yes. Our latest project is an algorithm that predicts patient deterioration hours before traditional monitoring systems." The conversation flowed more easily than Emma expected as they discussed her work, though she noticed Jack skillfully deflected questions about his own career. When their meals arrived, Emma's phone buzzed with an urgent email from her CFO about tomorrow's investor meeting. "I'm sorry, I need to check this," she said, already reaching for her phone. Jack nodded understandingly. "Of course." As Emma typed a quick response, she heard Jack speaking softly to their waiter. When she looked up, he was helping an elderly woman at the next table who had started choking. His movements were calm and precise as he performed the Heimlich maneuver, dislodging the food with practiced efficiency. The restaurant erupted in applause as the woman caught her breath. Jack simply nodded, patted the woman's shoulder reassuringly, and returned to their table as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "You handled that well," Emma commented, genuinely impressed. Jack shrugged. "Basic first aid. Everyone should know it." When the check came, Jack reached for it, but Emma was faster. "Please, I insist," she said, sliding her platinum card into the leather folder. Outside the restaurant, the awkward moment of goodbye arrived. Emma had already decided there wouldn't be a second date. Jack was nice enough, but they clearly moved in different worlds. "I had a lovely evening," Jack said, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled. "It was interesting," Emma replied, already checking her phone for messages. "I should get going. Big investor meeting tomorrow." "Of course. Good luck with your meeting." As Emma turned to leave, she couldn't resist adding, "My assistant means well, but I think she missed the mark this time. I usually date men in my industry, it's just easier with my schedule and lifestyle." Jack's expression remained kind, but something flickered in his eyes. "I understand. For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who makes you happy, Emma." The sincerity in his voice made her uncomfortable. "Good night, Jack," she said briskly, already walking toward her waiting Uber. The next morning, Emma was in her element. Standing before a room of potential investors, she delivered her presentation with the confidence and precision that had become her trademark. Harrington Tech Solutions was on the verge of a breakthrough, and she could feel the energy in the room as the investors leaned forward in their seats. As she concluded to enthusiastic applause, Emma felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She gripped the podium, blinking rapidly as the room seemed to tilt. Attributing it to skipping breakfast and the 3 espressos she'd consumed, she pushed through the Q&A session despite the growing discomfort. By the time she returned to her office, Emma's head was pounding, and she felt unnaturally hot. Her assistant, Megan, looked concerned. "Emma, you don't look well. Should I call a doctor?" "I'm fine," Emma insisted, though her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. "Just need some water and a moment to sit down." But as she moved toward her desk, the room spun violently. The last thing Emma remembered was Megan's panicked voice calling her name as the floor rushed up to meet her. Emma drifted back to consciousness to the sound of urgent voices and the feeling of movement. She was in an ambulance, she realized groggily. A paramedic was speaking rapidly into a radio while another worked over her, attaching monitors and inserting N4. BP's dropping fast. Temp 104.2. Possible sepsis. ETA 3 minutes to Boston Memorial. Emma tried to speak, but her throat felt like sandpaper. The paramedic noticed her consciousness and leaned closer. "Ms. Harrington, you're very ill. We're taking you to the hospital. Try to stay calm." The next few hours passed in a blur of bright lights, urgent voices, and searing pain. Emma caught fragments of medical terminology that meant nothing to her. Words like septic shock and organ failure floated above her as doctors and nurses moved with controlled urgency. Then suddenly, amid the chaos, a familiar voice cut through. Her phone infiltrated. "We need a new line, now." Emma forced her eyes open. Through the haze of fever, she recognized Jack, now dressed in hospital scrubs rather than his dinner suit. He moved with authority, directing a nurse to bring equipment while he prepared Emma's arm for a new four. "Jack," she whispered, her voice barely audible. His eyes met hers briefly. "Hey there. Don't try to talk. We're taking care of you." Confusion swirled through Emma's fever-addled mind. Why was the maintenance man inserting her for? But his hands moved with the confidence of someone who had done this thousands of times, and the relief was immediate when the new line was established. "Get Dr. Patel," Jack instructed someone out of Emma's line of sight. "Tell her the antibiotics aren't working. We need to switch protocols." Emma drifted back into unconsciousness, the mystery of Jack's apparent medical expertise lost in the fog of her illness. When she next awoke, the acute crisis had passed. Emma found herself in a private hospital room, the beeping of monitors a constant reminder of her condition. Her body felt leaden, and her mind was still foggy, but the searing pain had subsided. A doctor was checking her chart when she opened her eyes. "Ah, Ms. Harrington. Good to see you awake. I'm Dr. Patel. You gave us quite a scare. What happened?" Emma managed, her voice raspy. "You developed sepsis from an infected cut on your hand, that small one near your thumb. Given your history of mild immunosuppression from your childhood illness, it escalated quickly. Another hour or two, and we might have lost you." Emma vaguely remembered cutting her hand on a broken glass the day before her date with Jack, but she'd simply put a bandage on it and forgotten about it. How long have I been here? 3 days. You're stable now, but you'll need to stay with us a while longer. As Dr. Patel continued explaining her condition, Emma's attention was drawn to a figure passing by her door. Jack, now in a white coat with a stethoscope around his neck, was speaking with a nurse at the station outside. That man, Emma interrupted. He was here when I came in. I know him, but, he told me he was maintenance supervisor. Dr. Patel followed her gaze and smiled. Jack? He's one of our best emergency physicians. He's also the head of our trauma team. Been with us for over a decade. Emma's mind reeled. But he said. Maintenance supervisor? That's Jack for you, Dr. Patel chuckled. He does volunteer as our facilities liaison 1 day a week. Says it keeps him grounded and helps him understand how the hospital really works. The staff loves him for it. Before Emma could process this information, Jack himself appeared in the doorway. Dr. Patel, the labs are back for Ms. Harrington. He handed over a tablet, then noticed Emma was awake. Good morning. Feeling better? Emma stared at him, embarrassment and confusion washing over her. You're a doctor. Emergency physician, he corrected with a small smile. I tried to tell you at dinner, but you seem to have made up your mind about me pretty quickly. Dr. Patel looked between them, sensing the tension. I'll check on these results and be back shortly, she said tactfully, leaving them alone. Jack approached Emma's bedside. For what it's worth, I wasn't trying to deceive you. I mentioned I worked at Boston Memorial, and when you assumed I was just maintenance staff, I didn't correct you. Maybe I should have. Why didn't you? Emma asked, genuinely perplexed. Jack considered the question. I've found that what I do for a living changes how people see me. That night, I wanted to be seen as just Jack, not Dr. Reynolds. And honestly, after you made it clear what you thought of me, I was curious to see how long you'd maintain your assumptions. Emma felt a flush of shame creep up her neck. I was incredibly rude. You were honest, Jack corrected. And you weren't entirely wrong. I'm not from your world. I drive a 10-year-old Subaru, live in a modest house, and spend my free time at my daughter's soccer games. My idea of a perfect evening is making homemade pizza with Lily and watching nature documentaries. Despite her embarrassment, Emma found herself smiling at the image. Sounds nice, actually. Jack checked her 4N monitors with practiced efficiency. Your numbers are looking better. The new antibiotic protocol is working. Were you the one who recognized what was happening when I came in? Jack nodded. I was on shift in the ER. When they brought you in, I recognized you immediately. Your condition was deteriorating rapidly, and we had to move fast. Thank you, Emma said softly. For saving my life. Just doing my job, Jack replied, but his eyes held hers a moment longer than necessary. Get some rest. I'll check on you later. Over the next week, Emma slowly recovered. Jack visited her daily, sometimes professionally to check her progress, other times just to chat. Emma learned that his wife had died of cancer when Lily was just 3, leaving Jack to raise their daughter alone while maintaining his demanding career. How do you balance it all? Emma asked one afternoon as Jack helped her take her first cautious steps around the room. With difficulty, he admitted. But I have good support, my parents live nearby and help with Lily. And the hospital has been flexible with my schedule. Emma thought about her own life. The 60-hour workweeks, the missed family gatherings, the relationships that had withered from neglect. I'm not sure I remember how to have balance, she confessed. It's never too late to learn, Jack said simply. The day before Emma was to be discharged, Jack brought Lily to meet her. The 8-year-old was a miniature version of her father, with the same kind eyes and direct manner. Dad says you make computers that help doctors, Lily said, settling into the chair beside Emma's bed. That's cool. I want to be a robot engineer when I grow up. Emma couldn't help but smile. Robot engineer, huh? That's a great goal. Dad says I can be anything if I work hard and be kind to people. Emma glanced at Jack, who was arranging her medications on the bedside table. Your dad is a very wise man. He also said you're really smart and pretty, Lily added matter-of-factly, causing Jack to nearly drop the pill cup he was holding. Lily, he admonished, his cheeks reddening. Well, you did, Lily insisted, unrepentant. Emma felt a warmth that had nothing to do with her lingering fever. Thank you, Lily. I think your dad is pretty great too. When Emma was finally discharged, she found herself reluctant to leave. Standing at the hospital entrance with Jack, she struggled to find the right words. So, I guess this is goodbye, she said finally. Jack studied her face. It doesn't have to be. I was horrible to you at dinner. You were having a bad day, Jack shrugged. And to be fair, I wasn't entirely forthcoming either. Emma took a deep breath. Would you consider giving me a second chance? Maybe dinner again, this time with me knowing who you really are. Jack's smile was warm. I'd like that. But only if you promise one thing. What's that? That you'll come as just Emma, not the CEO, not the tech genius. Just you. Emma felt something tight in her chest loosen. I think I'd like to remember who that is. 3 months later, Emma stood in Jack's kitchen, laughing as Lily attempted to toss pizza dough in the air, resulting in a flour-covered disaster. Jack wrapped his arms around Emma from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder as they watched Lily's determined efforts. Still think I'm not your type, he murmured in her ear. Emma turned in his arms, leaving a smudge of flour on his cheek as she cupped his face. You're exactly my type. I just didn't know it until you saved my life. Life had changed dramatically for Emma since her illness. She still ran her company, but she'd delegated more, implemented flexible working hours for her team, and even closed the office on weekends, changes that had, surprisingly, increased productivity rather than hindered it. More importantly, she'd found room in her life for things that mattered beyond work, game nights with Jack and Lily, Sunday hikes in the state park, and quiet evenings simply enjoying each other's company. The night Jack had saved her life had been just the beginning. His hidden skills as a physician had kept her alive, but it was his visible qualities, his kindness, his integrity, his capacity for joy, that had ultimately saved her from a life half-lived. As Lily finally managed to toss the dough successfully, resulting in triumphant cheers from all three of them, Emma realized that sometimes the most important things in life come disguised as something we think we don't want or need. And sometimes, it takes nearly losing everything to recognize what truly matters. If you found this story touching, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales of unexpected connections and second chances. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all of the power of looking beyond first impressions and opening our hearts to new possibilities.